Welcome to your Iowa Assessment Interpretation video series. This is video 4 out of 4, so it's our final video. In this segment, we'll be looking at the longitudinal line graph. You can see a copy of it has been projected up in front of you. If you don't have it in front of you, go ahead and press pause, get it, and then come right back. What you're going to see for our longitudinal line graph is your son or daughter's progress over the course of potentially the last 3 years. You're going to be able to look at different sections, different tests, reading, written expression, conventions of writing, so on and so forth. You will also, on this particular form, see a couple of data points for each of those particular graphs. Those will be your son or daughter's measurement or their score for the last, potentially again, the last 3 grade levels, the last 3 years. Over on the left-hand side of any of these charts, of any of these graphs, you will have grade levels from pre-K all the way up to above high school level. On the horizontal part of the graphs, you will see both GE, and we'll tell you what that's going to be, as well as NPR. And if you remember from video 3, we talked about NPR. So to help you to be able to interpret the longitudinal line graph, let's take a look at 2 different data points that we've included for your interpretation purposes. The first is NPR, National Percentile Rank. We talked about it in video 3, but a brief review is that it's a range from 1 all the way up to 99, and it's a comparative score, meaning that it's a score that compares your son or daughter's achievement or measurement against all the other students who took the same test at the same time. So a national percentile ranking of 50 does not mean that they got 50% of the items correct. It means that they scored better than 50% of the kids who took the same test at the same time. So it can help us to give us an understanding of strengths and weaknesses, but some other data points are going to help to really zero in on what those particular items might be. Second thing that you'll see on the longitudinal line graph is GE, or grade equivalent. A grade equivalent is going to be a score from 2.0 to 13 plus, and it's going to be within that range, and that represents beginning of 2nd grade to above senior year of high school. Grade equivalent is also going to be one of the best ways that when we look at scores that we can see growth over time. One of the easiest ways though to understand and to really unpack grade equivalent is to actually look at real grade equivalents. So let's do that to help you understand what a grade equivalent is. For 2nd grade in reading, you can see a GE of 2.0. What that's going to represent is that this particular student scored as well as a 2nd grader at the very beginning of the year in reading when they took the test in 2nd grade. In 3rd grade, a GE of 3.4 means that they scored the same way that the average 3rd grader in the 4th month of school would have performed on that same test. And then here in 4th grade, we have a 5.9, meaning that in 4th grade for reading, this particular student scored the same way that the average 5th grader in the 9th month of school would have scored on the same 4th grade test. It doesn't mean that that particular student is ready for that content or should accelerate past that year, but it does indicate a good relative score to say that there's some good growth happening. So now let's help for you to understand how to interpret the longitudinal line graph. A very easy way to look at the longitudinal line graph, to look for areas of strength or weakness, to look for growth over time, is to just look at the lines and to look, are they moving upwards from left to right? If they're moving up from left to right, that's going to indicate growth or progress. If, however, they might be stagnating, so they might be staying the same, or unfortunately dropping low, so they're moving down from left to right, those should be areas of concern. Those should be areas of potential weakness that you want to look out for and be alerted to for your particular student. So for this example that we've provided for you, you can see some good growth that's happening in reading. From a 2.0 grade equivalent in 2nd grade to 3.4, and then up to a 5.9. So there's some good exponential growth happening there. For written expression, this particular example says that the grade equivalent in 2nd grade was a 2.3. They scored the same as a 2nd grader in the 3rd month of school when they took that test in 2nd grade. Then to a 2.6 in 3rd grade, up to a 3.2 in 4th. Now this might kind of level off, and you might say, well, that's somewhat concerning that they're not growing up to a grade level, which they really should be, and that would be our expectation as well. But it is key to point out that they are improving, that there is an upward trend that is moving from left to right, that there is growth or improvement happening. For computation, you can see that that line is somewhat leveled off. So from third grade of 5.0 up to fourth grade of 5.2, again, it's still improvement. You can also notice and indicate that they are above grade level. In a way that you can understand that, there are faint gray lines that are behind or included on the graphs that you'll see. Your son or daughter is going to be represented by the black thick line, and then the national average, so the progress or the growth for the national average is going to be indicated by a faint gray line. And so for this particular example, they're above the national average. They still are improving, maybe just not quite as fast or as on pace as we'd like, so it might be an area of concern. But this last example, vocabulary, is the best indicator of a way that you'd want to be concerned if you notice this for your son or daughter. We started off with a 2.4 for second grade, moving up to a 4.4, so a lot of growth there, but then here in fourth grade, a 4.1. So you see a decrease, and again, we don't want to see that. If you notice that on a particular score for your son or daughter, that's going to indicate for you an area of concern. Know that we at Incarnation Catholic School are already heightened to those particular scores, and we already are in the process of forming a plan for improvement and support for next year for that particular student, if that happens to be your son or daughter. But if you have any questions about that, if you need help in interpreting the longitudinal line graph, please feel free to get in touch with your Incarnation Catholic School. We hope that you have found these video series to be informative and helpful as you interpret your son or daughter's Iowa assessment. God bless, and go Irish.